Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Right. Um, Great. Sorry about taking so long for me to get in, but we're here. Um, so I'll go ahead and open the floor. There was a couple of topics that came up while I've been out of town. Just kind of brief reminders, but I guess we'll go ahead and open up the chat box, or if you have a mic, just go ahead and unmute and let me know your questions, and we can kind of get things going here. Well, so while folks are coming up, okay. Okay, to fix the family access, I'm going to go ahead and do a share screen here. There's a couple different times during the year where maybe you don't want families to log in, but if you're in the process of doing your enrollments, my internet is being really slow here today. Go ahead and log in. But where this is, where that's controlled at, is through your options icon on the dashboard. So let this get caught up here. Okay. So there's a couple different functions under options. Linking projects to clubs, project leader login. But when you come to this main screen, that's interesting. Usually, if families aren't able to create their record, the box "Do not allow new families to create their record" is checked, and or the "Do not allow existing families to edit their record" is checked. So with those being unchecked, your family should be able to create records. So I guess Mineral County, what kind of errors are your family seeing? Permission access not allowed. That's a new one. Go back to the admin. Okay, sometimes there's something that's checked on the admin side. Okay, I'm going to have to look at that one. I'm not seeing anything on my side where that would be why that's doing that way. Wow, that's interesting. That's a new one. Typically, if your families are saying that they can't get into the system, then one or two of these boxes are checked. Is that happening across the board for everybody in your county? Okay. And they're using Firefox as the browser, not Internet Explorer. Have they tried it like at your office? Okay. That's odd because I'm not seeing, like I said, this is kind of the gateway area here on options. Don't have a delineated thing for project, a month and a day for last project selection. You don't have anything checked as far as do not allow families to create their record or edit their record. I'm not showing anything just on my initial glance there on the admin level that would be, blocking anything like that. Clubs are dialed in. I'll check in on that one and get back to you on that. I'm kind of confused as to why that's doing that, so I'll definitely look into that. So next question I had, how does a member change counties during an enrollment year? That can be done on my end. I can do that now. I guess it would be a good idea, that both counties, like the county that they're currently in and the county that they're coming into, have a conversation. If they're originating county, they've paid enrollment fees to that. They've paid for the enrollment year, so technically they probably should get their enrollment fees for their initial county kind of refunded and then re-enroll either that, or if it's the same pricing, then just apply it and they're active. So there's been a couple different ways in my experience where counties have kind of worked through that. But if you just let me know who needs to be changed from what county and what county they're going to, I can definitely do that, and I can do that at any time. The key on that is we don't like deactivate the one county record. As long as they're staying in state, we can transfer them to any new county, if you will. Transferring to state doesn't happen yet, and I don't know if that functionality will ever come to fruition, but typically if they're moving to a different state, we archive those records. We can work with the new state as far as communicating, okay, years in 4-H, or what projects leader or youth have been involved in, and then they just create a new record for their new state. So I hope that helps on that question. A couple things I did have questions on as far as leaders approving enrollment records. The county office is kind of the gateway for that, and we can, if leaders are allowed email access, they can confirm who is in their list, but that does not supersede the county functionality or the county permission, if you will. The reason why the county is kind of that last piece on the approval is for like leader records, we want to make sure that they've done their screening components if that's in play, background check, and then if your county's charge your leaders, want to make sure enrollment fees have been paid. For youth, it's the same piece, checking the enrollment record, make sure authorizations have been provided. If there's any components where they need to provide special permissions, we've captured that, and then the payment piece. So the counties are that gateway as far as being activated within the system. And that is not a functionality that the leaders will have. So I hope that helps to clarify on that. Looks like we got a question. Moved. Okay. We're still working on the, Sharon, we're still working on the delivery modes. I haven't gotten an answer back on James on that, but I'll double check with him. And it might be one of those where he recommends us to deactivate the club and put it back in the system. So I'll send him an email to double check on that today. Okay, so we can transfer counts from county to county. That's a function they can't do at the county level, but we can transfer those enrollment records. And then also if like a family creates a duplicate record, if they have two separate family records, I can move everybody into the same family record. It's still kind of hit and miss if I can actually merge records, but there are ways to clean that up. So if you do come across some duplicate items like that, let me know. All I need on that is what is the appropriate email account as far as primary login. Sometimes they forget that they have a record with one email address, use a different email address, set up a new family record that creates a duplicate. So sometimes they're able to totally replicate every record as far as youth and adult records. Sometimes they'll get the errors that there's a duplicate address that exists. So that kind of it depends on what information they enter in. But if you do come across duplicates and that type of thing, I can do that record clean up for you for sure. And as soon as I hear something back, Sharon, on the delivery modes, I'll let you guys know on that. Another thing I had a question on while I've been out of town, as far as who gets the email notifications for the county. Unfortunately, that's considered kind of the primary contact for a county, and that's a single user. So my recommendation as far as who's identified or gets those email notifications, it should be somebody in your office who, ideally has 4-H appointment for starters, in there every time. And if that's, if we need to change that, let me know, but it has to be the point person. So my druthers is that it's the 4-H person that has that contact, not a support secretary or office staff. And that's part of the day-to-day management of the system. But if there are changes I need to make on that, it's just email me, let me know, and then it takes about 15 minutes for it to update in the system. But it's a pretty easy fix. And then as far as the email notifications, you'll get email notifications on initial enrollments. You should get email notifications on event registrations and that type of thing. Oh, Miss Harper wants to say hi. I was like, oh, the door's opening behind me. Who was that? So, sorry about that. Other than that, things I haven't had, those were the 2 questions I had gotten this week, but any other questions? If you guys are working through your enrollments, I'm not sure what your enrollment timeline is, but one of the things you're going to want to look for, there's a couple things off of the search screen I kind of recommend as a day-to-day monitoring, if you will. One of those is checking for incomplete records. Usually what this means is somebody's trying to enroll, but they haven't gotten all the steps completed. So it could be, you know, they tried to do it on their cell phone, and which 0 is great, trying to complete it on their cell phone, or they got started, maybe ran into an issue, that type of thing, or there's a number of different things that could factor into that. But you want to check periodically for your incomplete records. And I also like to check just searching for families. And if you have a family that calls you and says, you know, I've enrolled, everything's set up, you know, but when you search on the members and volunteers, the only time that works is if there's actually a member or volunteer record tied to that account. So if you have a family calling in and saying, you know, I'm trying to enroll, that type of thing, you're going to want to search by the family tab, because that gives you your family records. And if there's something in here, kind of like this record here, where it's got incomplete information, or it could be a duplicate sometimes. You know, if it's just a hanging duplicate record, I can actually delete. If there's no member records in it, I can actually delete it. But this is an attempt. Now, no information got entered, but this is definitely something where you may want to follow up with that family and go, okay, so I'd seen we had a start of an enrollment. Did you have questions on this? Are you wanting to participate? Doing some of that cleanup is fine. And then let me see. Actually, I'm logged in as the county. So if you do talk with this family as an example, and they go, no, I don't want to participate, or we're not going to do 4-H. For records like this, then I would just delete that out. There's no reason to have a hanging record, if you will. So it just kind of makes for a cleaner system. Kind of going back to that options piece, you know, once you guys are done with your enrollments, you do have the option to set on this calendar in here the last day and month of project selection. So what that means is, you know, they can access their record, but they're not going to be able to add projects. If you check the do not allow families to edit their record, only thing they're going to be able to do is see. So if there's still some information updating, or if they need to update, you guys don't have animal records. They could still log in. This isn't a bad thing. Like once you've passed that enrollment timeline and your project selection and that type of thing is pretty solidified. Checking that box isn't a bad thing. What that does is it kind of freezes their account for the year, and sometimes people will try to update or add projects or make changes way late in the year, and so that gets a little problematic. If you have meeting deadlines and that type of thing, as far as number of meetings that they need to do for project completion, checking that box does help. So that is definitely an option for you guys. We've talked about this several times. The group enrollments, as you guys are doing your summer camps, day camps, we're on that home stretch, or I don't know if school's out for you guys yet, but as you're kind of working through your programs, you should be entering in group enrollments for your impacts, and we've talked about that a lot, so I won't really go into too much detail on that. We do have the sign-in sheets. I've kind of migrated everything over to the University of Idaho 4-H webpage. We have a whole 4-H online section with support information. So if you need the sign-in forms, that type of thing, those are all right there. I do have a Word version posted, and I can actually, I'll take you there. We have a Word version posted, so if you need to, it's got a U Idaho logo on it, but if you need, you can swap that out. But if you need to update it or add more information for you to help with that, it's definitely something where you can customize that. So when you come to the Idaho 4-H page, you have to be a little careful, because if you click on this 4-H online, that takes you to the Idaho Login page. So carefully click that plus button and you'll see help for staff. And if we scroll down, where all the reporting information is at is under reporting ES 237. And then I've got breakouts on the different delivery mode descriptions. The ES 237 definitions, how they define, like for example, I get a lot of questions on direct volunteer, indirect volunteer. But the sign-in form, it's kind of set up, and I've shown that a couple times too now. The sign-in form is kind of set up where it pretty much mirrors the information you're going to need in 4-H online. It does your grade, residence, ethnicity breakdowns. It also has a sign-in sheet. So if you do have new contacts and you see them frequently in your programs, it might be good to visit with that family and say, have you considered enrolling in 4-H? Sometimes I have, if you have families where if you have a participation deadline for your fair, it's not uncommon to have families to try to engage pretty much midway through the summer. And, your 4-H year is pretty much underway at that point. But what I like to do is keep their information, give them a call in October and say, enrollment year is open. Notice you engaged in a couple opportunities in the summer. What interests your children have, we can go ahead and get them involved in the program. I also make a communication with the organizational leader too, because if the family doesn't reach out to that leader or that club to get more information, then the leader can kind of do a follow-up, which is kind of nice to help bridge that communication, help get that new family involved and engaged in the program. Any other questions? make sure I didn't miss anything here. One thing on the ES 237 records, that type of thing, you want to have your group enrollments in about the midway point in September. The system will roll over to the new year at midnight on September 30th. We will probably have the system closed for a couple days just for system upgrades, but I'm going to be working with Carrie, and we'll identify. We try not to keep that very long. It's just having a couple days where we need to have that new slate in order to apply some of the new system changes. I'm not sure what Carrie has in mind for this year, but like last year for Idaho, we changed our age divisions to kind of more align with national. So that was a pretty significant change, and that took about 3 days. And it wasn't even on my end, it was on James's end to get all those changes applied. So having that little pause button, if you will, before we start taking enrollments for the New Year's, that is helpful for us. But we'll be working with Carrie on, all right, identifying, okay, what changes are going to be happening, what kind of timeline are we looking at. But it's really important to have that data set as far as for this 4-H year, clean, ready to go, and that does add a little bit of work once you get into post-fair. So there's definitely some things you need to do as far as going through your project records. One of the post follow-up fair components to do, which makes a nice clean transition for the year, is doing your project completion. So if you search, let's go. If you search for your projects, you have a list of what is in there. You can search by project, but you know, as you get enrollments, you should have a list. Oh, Monroe County, that's right. You guys are having issues with getting people in there. Well, let me get into a different county. All right. So to do your project completion, from the search icon, go to the projects tab. Make sure your 4-H year is set to the current year. Oh, I'm used to having 2 screens, trying to get everything. Okay. I'm just 0 for 2 here. Let me get in. Okay, we go search screen, projects tab. So your project should be listed out by title, but for example, for your market, for your beef, oh, goodness. All right, how about beef breeding? Let's try market beef. Cat. Okay. All right. So to do your project completion, you can project completion check options. If you have your list, I don't know if you do premiums or not, but whatever you use for your judging lists, once you have like that final, okay, this person has completed the project or X person hasn't, you flesh out of everybody who's enrolled in that project, everybody should be showing up on this list. So in this example for Kat, we have one member and we're going to assume that she's completed the project. So what you do is you have an awesome option here in your check options to either check all or uncheck all. And let me move this over to the other side here. Oh, there, that works. So if you have a long list, maybe if only a few that didn't complete, you can check all, just unselect the ones that didn't complete. And so once you have them basically flagged, your project completion options, you can go project completion, you enter in the date, so that would be the date that that project was evaluated or they met their project, you know, basically completed the project to fulfill whatever your guidelines are for project completion. Complete the check project, so then what will happen is the date that you enter in will populate over here on the completed side. So that gives you the repository of who has or has not completed that project. So that's one of those post-fair components to do, along with doing all your group enrollments and getting the ES 237 information dialed in for your 4-H year. Any questions on that? Any more questions in general? Are we good for today? Thank you, Stormy. All right, everybody. Well, I think we'll be meeting in another couple of weeks. Have Carrie send you out an email component on that. I do have a couple follow-up components, and I'll let you guys know how that all shakes out. But thank you, everybody, for joining today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.